About 9 months ago, I'd bought likely the cheapest 2014 Silverado in the entire world. Somehow stars aligned and I got this truck for a $125 bid from Copart. After fees and delivery, we were looking at a total of $500 spent on this. First, I got it running after realizing that the main fuse was blown. And that was about where all the good news ended. Besides obvious body damages on the exterior, the issues would just not end. I replaced all 4 tires because the current ones were likely the cause of why this was crashed. I realized that the catalytic converters had been cut out, likely due to a misfire that would just not go away. I also came to the conclusion that the commonly bad transmission in this was shifting very rough, leaking a lot of fluid, and made some really weird noises. After spending $2,500 on a rebuilt one with a billet torque converter, I put it in and decided to focus on the misfire. Fairly quickly, I realized that this misfire wasn't a simple spark plug, coil, or injector failure, but something significantly more serious and likely related to the displacement on demand system with problematic lifters that may have damaged our camshaft. So now, after a 6-month break, we're digging into this issue once and for all. I can already feel my back hurting because this is going to be painful. If you're not familiar, on a lot of these LS-based V8s from Chevy, from GM, there's one camshaft. And it's basically right above the crankshaft, meaning all the way down there. So unlike in Audis that I'm really used to, where there's dual overhead cams, you just pop a valve cover off and the camshafts are sitting right there. Here we gotta take off the valve covers, the heads, the intake, the timing chain, obviously, and just so much. This is gonna be a big project, and that's kind of why I didn't want to do it. And another thing is that the camshaft has to slide out. You can't just lift it up, so it has to slide out of the motor towards the front, meaning that we're gonna have to like remove a whole bunch of stuff up front too, so that we can pull that out. Do you guys see why I haven't done this for so long? There were a lot of people wondering whatever happened to this truck. There were a lot of people wondering why do I still have it and why it's not done yet. Well, this is why. I just never felt like taking on a project like this. Anyway, let's get to work. Okay, it looks like we do have this grounding strip that goes directly from that head to over here. It does have enough slack in it, so it's not really going to get in our way, but I want to be able to pull the head out completely instead of having to set it down here somewhere while I unbolt this later. So let's just address this first. I think our exhaust is getting in the way here, but I really can't slide it back much more because of the steering shaft, and potentially I need to remove this, but I don't want to, so I'm trying to avoid that. Yay! We got it. Okay. All right, so obviously we do have a bunch of coolant that leaked out from the head. That's normal, nothing to be worried about. Let's see what our head gasket looks like. Well, I'm not seeing anything right off the bat that would cause our 3rd cylinder misfire. Okay, so right here we have the lifter tray, and I do believe we're gonna be replacing that with the ones that came in the kit. All right. Okay, so here come our lifters. One of them anyway. The others decided to stay back. Oh, there we go. Okay. Here's this one. All right, so this lifter here seems to be pretty stuck and does not want to come out. Let's see if we can grab it with some pliers.
Oh yeah, there we go, okay.
All right, so here's what we're looking at. I believe this here is our cylinder number 3, and right off the bat, I'm not seeing anything super concerning, but cylinder number 3, we do have quite a bit of scoring on our lifter roller here. And none of the other ones look like that. All of these seem to be perfectly smooth with no scoring, no pitting, nothing like that. So potentially this is what we're dealing with. This bracket that holds the alternator does need to come out because there's bolts behind it that I need to access to get rid of our coolant pipe here. And we need to take this off so that we can get to the bolts for the timing cover, camshaft, and so on and so forth. Okay. Got first broken bolt. I probably said that with too much excitement. Yeah, it's not a good thing, but oh well. It's luckily nothing important. This is just for the bracket that holds this AC line down to our alternator bracket. It is now a few hours later. As I found out, I think it'll be easier to remove the coolant pipe if I get our passenger side head out first, because there's a bolt that holds our AC compressor that's pretty hard to get to with the head in place. So I've been working away at getting rid of all our head bolts, which seems to be pretty successful, except that I've already lost 2 of my 15mm sockets. One of them went inside the exhaust header, and it's currently somewhere inside of our exhaust system. Because this truck doesn't have cats, it just fell in all the way down there, and there's no way to get to it without cutting the exhaust, so that's gonna be fun. Anyway, I decided to worry about that later and just get to removing our head. I guess I removed our fuel rail on that side for nothing, because that can just come out with the head, but oh well, too late. And it also gives me something to grab onto, which is kind of nice. There we are. Sweet. Another head out, so that's cool. I'm tired. This has been a lot, not gonna lie. But I guess this is also a very good experience for working on engine internals, because honestly, until now, I really haven't done anything this significant. I have changed a crankshaft on a motorcycle engine, but I never got that engine running because the motorcycle turned out to have a lot of other issues. So I never really got a chance to find out whether my engine assembly skills are decent or not. But as far as cars and trucks go, the 5.3 I think is one of the better engines to do a camshaft replacement on, because everything is generally relatively accessible. Relative is a relative term, but yeah, it's going. Little by little, we're getting somewhere. I don't know, maybe this will give us enough room to get to all these bolts. If that's the case, I'm just gonna leave this hanging right here, because I really do not need to have this completely out of the way. Looks like we can get to it with a wobble extension, which is great. Yes! Looks like this is the last bolt. Before I drop the bolts and lose them, we're gonna set them aside and make sure that we keep track of which bolt was where. And to keep track of all our bolts, I'm using the good old box check, where I just kind of relatively mark the locations of all the accessories and put the bolts in the somewhat accurate locations to keep track of what was where. Oh, yes. Next, we're going to find out whether or not we get lucky enough that the crankshaft pulley comes off with just the impact. Yay, it does. That's awesome. I think this is free. Yay. All right, I have a few things to admit. Thing number one is that I've been working at this for like a solid, I want to say 4 or 5 days, which sounds ridiculous, but obviously I have a lot of other things going on. So I'm only putting in like, let's say 3 to 4 hours, maybe 5 on certain days into this truck while running the rest of this business. So it's been a long time already. And the second thing I'd like to admit is that I didn't really do that much research before diving into this project. Obviously, really dumb idea. After all, this is very intensive. So I just kind of figured I'll be able to figure it out along the way, which for the most part I have been. But the downside of that is that I didn't really know exactly what needs to be removed, when it needs to be removed, and that sort of thing. So now that I have the timing cover off, I'm realizing that the upper oil pan needs to come out too. So when we take a look at this, looks like I'm gonna guess that this is our oil pump assembly. But basically the problem is that the upper oil pan edge over here interferes with the oil pump. So even if I undo these bolts that hold the oil pump on, it's not going to slide off the crank because it's just gonna hit the oil pan. So that is something I did not anticipate. Somehow, some way, I mean, from the research I've done, I didn't realize this was the case. But again, there was not a lot of research done because I guess I might have gotten a little too confident. The problem is that getting that upper oil pan out with the engine still in the truck, I mean, it looks practically impossible. So probably it may actually be impossible. So what that means is that I either have to like disassemble a whole bunch of stuff under the car or fully remove our engine. Not something I anticipated having to do. I mean, looks like people have done this with the engine in the truck, but maybe that was on a different generation of this 5.3 where the oil pan design is different or the oil pump design is different. Looking at this now and having seen what the bottom of the engine looks like under the truck, I don't think that can be removed without pulling out the engine. So this is our lower oil pan. That's where we would drain the oil. And then right above that is the upper oil pan, which as you can see is above our front diff. Obviously this is a four-wheel drive truck, which I guess is what makes this so much harder. There's absolutely no way I'm gonna get to those upper pan bolts. So, yep, I'm an absolute idiot. I don't know how I didn't see this coming. To get the engine out of the truck, well, we just need to disconnect it from the transmission. That's the biggest part, I guess. And the good news is that I've done this once before when I replaced the transmission. So we need to get to all of the bell housing bolts right over here and also remove the starter and get to the torque converter bolts behind it. All right, next let's try and make sure that we have as little stuff as possible getting in the way of this engine coming out from the top here. So I'm gonna get rid of our alternator along with the bracket that holds it down. The only thing that's staying is gonna be the AC compressor, because I'm still hoping that I'll be able to get all this done without draining our AC system. An issue I have is that the headers can't really come out because the studs and nuts holding the downpipe to the headers are seized up. I had to use some brute force and just a lot of wiggling to finally get this sucker out, which was really frustrating, but as long as it's done eventually, right? So now I should be able to just fish this guy out of here. I think it's gonna be easier for it to come out from the top. Let's see how that goes. Okay. All right, we're free. I struggled yesterday with getting the engine away from the transmission, but we finally are free. So now it's just a matter of starting to lift things up a little bit and just make sure that we're not gonna rip off any wiring or grounds or anything like that. The exhaust here is definitely getting in the way, which I definitely anticipated, but hopefully we can kind of work around it. I'm about to break our AC compressor. Looks like this guy got a little caught in here. I keep telling you guys, I'm an idiot, and I feel like some of you don't believe me and just keep watching. Maybe that's why you keep watching, but still. The only thing that was pulling on it was just one of those plastic wire holders that pop into a hole. And unfortunately, I did mess up our radiator. I yeah, just completely overlooked this because I was standing on the other side of the engine hoist, so didn't realize that this was happening. Unfortunately, this radiator is definitely smoked. We're gonna have to replace this. Get out of here. All right, here it comes. All right, now let's start taking this sucker apart for real. Obviously the heads are off now, but we still got plenty of things to remove from this engine. Starting with all of that coolant that just came out. Oh, this is terrifying. Please don't break my engine. Oh boy. I will admit I don't have the best bolts in here. So we're gonna start by removing our lower oil pan, which is easy enough, just a bunch of 10mm bolts. As you guys can probably see, this was a very, very leaky engine. So I don't know if somebody just really sucked at resealing this. Maybe somebody has done this in the past. Or maybe that's just how it was sealed from factory. I mean, I would hope that's not the case because this is quite pathetic. I mean, the amount of buildup we have all over here is, I mean, massive. And for a truck made in 2014, this amount of oil loss all over the place is just not acceptable. Oh, look at that. Sweet. All right. I believe there's just 4 bolts here holding the oil pump in place. The oil pump comes out. Looks like this oil pump was made in Canada, so that's pretty cool. There we go. So we're just gonna take off the chain here. I'm gonna leave the sprocket on the crank and try and not skip any teeth here. This guy comes out. And next, theoretically, if I didn't mess anything up, our cam should just slide right out. Looks like an axle bolt from an Audi should mesh this up nicely. It might not be as long as we would want it to be, but it is what it is. Easy does it. There we go. So the cam itself actually looks fine. So I don't think we had an issue with the camshaft. It was more of an issue with the lifter. As you saw, that was sideways and probably causing our misfire. Hopefully causing our misfire. Hopefully we're not dealing with anything else, because if I do all this for absolutely nothing, I will be very, very unhappy. I might have to pick a different career. Now, I'll be honest, I really don't know that much about these different camshafts and whatnot. I just know that this one is supposed to delete AFM. By looking at them visually, I'm really not seeing any difference. All the lobes seem to be the same. All of the oil feed holes are the same. Really not sure how this whole thing works. But they're just gonna change the camshaft. At this point, we already have it, so there's really no point not to. We're just gonna hope for the best. We're gonna reassemble everything to the best of our ability and just see what happens. And some of you might be thinking that this is a terrible approach, and I 100% agree with you. And now it's just a matter of reassembling everything. Putting everything back where it was, resealing all of our surfaces, and all of that good stuff. I can't say I'm looking forward to it, but I'm looking forward to seeing whether or not we fixed our issue and whether or not this was for absolutely no reason. And you know, something that's really worth noting about this is that when I say for completely no reason, I'm being somewhat sarcastic, because in reality we all know that AFM or DoD or fuel on demand deactivation of the cylinders is a terrible system that is terrible for reliability. I mean, it is such a common issue on these 5.3s that's honestly enough to want to stay away from them. Which is why I am relatively brave to just go ahead and assume that's what we're dealing with, and that's where our misfire is coming from, because even if I end up figuring out that it was something else causing this, it's going to be a very strong selling point for this truck, because I'm going to be able to sell it for much more when I can show to the customer that we had the AFM fully disabled, and one of the major reliability issues on this truck has been addressed forever. Same with having our billet torque converter in the transmission is going to make a very big difference to those who know what we're dealing with. Okay, at this point the mating surfaces for both the timing cover and the upper oil pan are nice and clean, so we can go ahead and put those things on. Obviously after we do our timing chain. Alright, so first things first, we have this guy going here. This is the camshaft retainer, as well as a seal for this, I'm assuming, coolant passage down here. Perfect. Okay, so slight hold up. Turns out the camshaft sprocket bolt is a torque to yield bolt, meaning that it is a one-time use because it stretches after it is mounted once. So actually we cannot reuse this, and we have to wait to finish installing all this until I have a new one of these. Silly that this isn't included in the camshaft kit, because this is required to replace this, so you would think they would include that, but they didn't, and I overlooked the fact that we don't have this and that it needs to be replaced. Foot-pounds. It is quite rare for me to get this involved into cleaning things, but with this truck, it seems appropriate. After all, we're going all in with practically every new gasket and seal known to man for this engine. In fact, I'm also replacing some of the factory RTV with gaskets because clearly the factory solution isn't cutting it, and this engine has been leaking from every possible crevice for years. When the Silverado is finished, the plan is for it to not only be more reliable, but cleaner, drier, and better in almost every possible way. That's the hope anyway. We'll see how it goes in the next video. Thanks for watching.